Okay, hello good people. This is the second video or part two, and basically if you've already watched part one, you'll remember this screen. This was the last screen on the first video, and basically I talked about this new golden rule where we would try to learn to be as nice and forgiving to ourselves as possible. Now, as I previously mentioned, most people, I find, the voice inside our head is actually not like that at all. It's actually really harsh. It's very critical. It's very judgmental. It's kind of mean. And the main reason that I think it's allowed to be that way is this. If we actually said our thoughts that we say to ourselves out loud, we would hear how insanely illogical they are, how mean they are. But see, they go on inside your head and no one else gets to hear them. So then it's kind of like there's no filter, there's no control on that little voice. So that's why it's important that we learn to be aware of what that little voice is doing. That little voice gives voice to our belief systems and what our thoughts are. Now, where do these come from, or what is this whole concept? Well, I would like to say I invented it. I did not. This comes from a branch of psychology called cognitive behavior therapy. You don't need to know that. Cognitive means having to do with the thoughts. So cognitive behavior therapy is a whole branch of psychology where they're like, you don't have to sit around and cry and take 10 years laying on a couch bemoaning all your problems and it's everybody's fault but mine. But what you have to do is learn to become aware of your thoughts, realize which thoughts are helpful and logical and keep them, and which thoughts are not helpful and not logical, and learn to get rid of them. Now, the trick is before you can get rid of them, you have to learn to be aware of them. And most of us are not aware of them, what our thoughts are, and where they come from. Now, it's very important that, let me jump to the next screen because it gets into this concept of blame. A lot of times people think that if you want to try to help yourself, you become very into blaming other people. And I do not agree with that. I think it's counterproductive to start blaming other people for any of your own problems. Makes you feel passive and weak, like you don't have any control. On the other hand, while I don't believe in blaming other people, you do need to be aware of how other people have influenced you. None of us popped out of the womb in the damaged state that we end up by the time we're 20, 30, 40 years old. Like, it takes a lot of life experiences to get us as messed up as we are. And basically, these experiences mean a lot of them are related to your parents. And again, it's not a blame issue, but again, they were not raised by perfect people. So even if they were well intentioned, they made some small mistakes. And sometimes they are highly influential on the way we are as kids. It could be where you were in the birth order, whether you're the first child in your family or an only child or you're the last one. Parents all, I genuinely believe that parents all love their children and mean to do the best that they can. But they're human, just like you and I, so they make mistakes. The problem is when we're very young, is we're extremely fragile and we're extremely illogical, let's say. It's almost like, and you've seen this in your own life now, you're talking to somebody and they give you 99 compliments, and there's one slightly critical idea that they offer. Well, when you go home, if you're like me, you do not think about the 99 great things that they said, the 99 things that would make you feel good. You focus on the one thing they said that made you feel bad. And that's the way that we are. We're very illogical in the information that we take in. That's why I believe people need to learn these skills and realize, oh my God, if in every situation we got 99 positives and one little negative, like life would be awesome. That is, unless you choose to only focus on the one negative, then you can manage to be quite miserable. So, one of my focuses is that you don't spend your time blaming other people for your problems, but you do need to be aware of who and what has influenced your life. Now, I don't remember the name of the book, but I did read Dr. Phil's book, and one of the things that I remember he had you do was he had you journal or write down about the 5 most influential people in your life. Could be positive or negative influence, but if you look, there are certain people in our lives that have really influenced us. Most of us, either parents are part of these people, could be a teacher, could be an uncle and aunt, could be a brother, a sister, but these people have highly influenced us. Now, let's say, for example, you grew up in a family where your mom was like Mother Teresa, and she was just wonderful and loving and caring. And every time you made a mistake, she said, "Oh, it's okay, baby. You didn't mean to make a mistake, so just try your best from now on." And every time you didn't get a perfect score on a test, she said, "Oh, listen, I know you're a smart little boy or a smart little girl, and you can do it whenever you try. You're really smart. Don't worry, you'll do better next time." Well, if you grow up being influenced by a person like this, your little voice is going to end up being kind of like that. It's going to be kind of forgiving. It's going to give you support. If, on the other hand, you grew up with a more typical person where they thought the way to show that they love you was to kind of push you or to always think you could do better, then sometimes you adopt a voice inside that's basically no matter what you do, it's never happy. And most people, the little voice inside our head, it's very difficult to make this little voice happy. It's like even if you're perfect, it would find some other way to criticize you, some other area. So, a lot of times I look at people and I think to myself, like, how did this person end up so needy? Like, why does this person always have drama in their lives? And sometimes I'll even talk to people like that and I'll say, like, I'll get them, we'll talk for a while and I'll say, "Do you realize you do that?" And they're like, "Well, honestly, I do see it." And I'll say to them, "Why do you do that?" They honestly don't know. They are not aware of the fact that some point in their life, generally when they were younger, they didn't feel that they got enough attention. So now they're going to spend the rest of their entire life trying to get the attention that they didn't get when they were young. And the worst part is this, is if you think about it, the more you try to get attention, the more people don't want to give you attention. So they're going to spend their whole life trying to get attention, and the way they're going to do it is going to make people not want to be around them. So while I don't want them to go back and blame their brother and say, "Oh, you got all the attention and I didn't, so it's your fault." I don't want people to do that. I don't think that's productive. On the other hand, if you're not aware of why you act this way, it's important to go back and think like, well, why, what could have caused this? And when you go back and you look and you use these tools that I'm going to offer you, starts to become very easy to figure out why we are the way we are, why we think the way we do, why we do the things we do, why we behave in certain situations the way we do. Because sometimes we even behave in ways that afterwards, I don't know about you, but there's times where I've done things and later I look back and go like, why the heck did I say that? What was I thinking? Well, even though it wasn't logical or the smartest thing to say or do, it had something to do with something inside of me, some hidden upsetment or belief or feeling that I had that I was not aware of. So basically, what all these tools are going to do is give somebody the ability to analyze themselves, to really look at yourself and say, what are the parts of myself that are helpful, that are helping me to be happy and be a good person and a happy person and successful person, and keep them. But then to look at the kinds of things that we say and do or think or believe that are hurting us and say, okay, I can't just pretend it's not true. Let me analyze what caused me to start thinking or behaving this way. And then I can consciously, because that's the whole thing, you can consciously change anything. You just need to be aware of the problem. So that's what's going to happen in each of these videos. I'm going to start sharing with you the exercises that I did, that were suggested in these books that I read, that basically teach you how to become aware of what your little voice is doing. It's almost like now, I always tell people, it's like the difference is I feel like there's a filter. So when I have thoughts, they don't just automatically go into my head, they get filtered. And I say to myself, is that true? Is that reasonable? Is that fair? Would I ever say this to anyone else? Anything that I would never say to anyone else, I should never say to myself. I would never call anyone else stupid, so I shouldn't call myself stupid. Um, so the idea is to start treating yourself the way that you try to treat others, and that's in a fair, caring, loving way. So that's going to be the end of part 2.